Hi, Kathy here from Creating a Simpler Life, where we are building a homestead from scratch in the Adirondack Park. And if you're looking to buy a homestead or land to build a homestead from scratch, then you absolutely need to watch this video before you make any offers. Last weekend I was watching season 4 of Homestead Rescue, and every episode had a pretty serious problem. In episode 1, they were dealing with toxic soil and contaminated surface water. In episode 2, they were facing potential landslides due to a clay-rich soil and steep slopes. And episode after episode, I watched as homesteaders faced the risks of wildfires, had no drinkable water sources for themselves, for animals, or for plants, risked high floodwaters, and so much more. I started to wonder why on earth would they buy properties with so many problems, and that's when I realized they probably didn't have a clue what they were getting themselves into. Now, I just want to say that I love Homestead Rescue and the Raney Family. What they do for people, well, it's just awesome, and we need a whole lot more good in the world just like them. But the people on these homesteads could have avoided at least some of their problems had they known the deal ahead of time. And that is what I want to show you today. How, with just a little bit of research, you can learn a lot about an area or property that you want to buy. This video is not like any other video out there about buying land for homesteading. All that other stuff like legal access, right-of-way, there's a ton of videos out there about that. This video is about safety and health on the homestead. The 3 most important things for a safe and healthy life on a homestead are clean air, clean water, and clean soil. So some of the things I'm going to share with you should be absolute deal breakers, but others can be easily remediated. And whether you use what you discover to move on and find another property, or you use it to lowball an offer, knowledge is power. Just a little disclaimer here, these are just some of the things to check on before buying land, especially if that land is super cheap and you really want to know why. The first thing I want to talk about is clean air, local pollution levels, nearby factories, radon. These are things that will affect clean air on your homestead. The second thing is water. Is the area prone to floods or runoff? Is there any pollution in any nearby lakes or streams? Is there groundwater underneath that you could drill a well into? Is the groundwater polluted? Where will your drinking water come from? And where will the water for your animals and plants come from? How much precipitation will the homestead receive on average per year? Very important questions when it comes to water. And last but not least is the soil and the land. Are you aware of any previous land uses like mining? Are there any nearby Superfund sites or spills that you should know about? Is the area prone to landslides? In fact, what type of soil is it? Maybe it has karst topography. That means sinkholes would be common. There are several states where sinkholes are common. Pennsylvania even has coal mine fires burning for more than 50 years. Air, water, and soil are the 3 most important things on any homestead, and I'm going to share today with you a couple of my go-to websites with interactive maps of the United States where you can look up many of these things and more before making any offers on land or property for homesteading. Okay, so I'm going to share a few websites. I'm not going to teach you how to use the websites because most of them give you all the explanations that you need. So the first one I want to go to is NIPEA Assist. This is the National Environmental Protection Act. They have basic training videos, advanced training videos. They have a user's guide, a description of the features, so they can teach you how to use it. What I want to do is just show you the tool, and then you can go to it and do what you need to do. So you could put your zip code in here, or I'm just going to launch the tool so you could see what it looks like. Now, just an FYI, some of the features, if you're not zoomed in enough, they will not show up. So you have to be somewhat zoomed in. I'm actually going to just zoom out so you could see the full map. Now, when I'm doing these, I prefer to use a light gray canvas so I can see the layers when I add them. So it's called a layer. So I'm just going to show you really quick. If I go up here to the right, it says EPA facilities. This is all grayed out because I'm zoomed too far out. But if I put a zip code in and zoom in, I can now add layers. And the more zoomed in you are, the more detailed those layers will be. So this is a hazardous waste layer, and it shows you where there are hazardous waste reports. When you click on those, you can learn more about those reports and whether or not they were cleaned up or not. But that's hazardous waste. You could do air pollution. You can do Superfund sites. Superfund is a U.S. federal government program designed to fund the cleanup of toxic waste sites. Billions have been spent since it was created in 1980, and it has to be pretty bad to be on the list of Superfund sites. You can find brownfield sites, and brownfield sites are former industrial sites that may have contaminated soil, so that's something good to know before you buy. Going down further, we have water monitoring, non-attainment area, and just so you know, this has to do with air pollution. And non-attainment is the technical term that simply means an area has too much of one of the nation's most widespread and dangerous pollutants, such as ozone. And just so you know, on Long Island, I know it's pretty bad. I'll just go according to the 8-hour 2015 standard, and you can see that we are not attaining that. But you can check for lead, sulfur dioxide, and a whole bunch of other pollutants. You can look for water features, impaired streams. We have a lot of those here on the island as well. Here's a good one. Sole source aquifers. That generally means that that's how that area solely gets its water. Now up here in the Adirondacks where we moved to, the second thing we actually did was drill the well because water is the second most important thing. The first thing we did was put a road in so that the well drilling machine could get up onto the property where we want to build. When the well driller came, they ended up drilling 680 feet and having to frack it. So we have a couple of videos on that if you're interested in watching. Here's another really good one for a homestead, the soil survey map. The type of soil and a lot of information about the soil is really important. The closer you zoom in, the more detailed the information is. So for example, I'm just going to scroll in and click on this orange soil right now. So this says it's silt loam, very rocky, very steep. That's definitely something that you want to know. That doesn't mean you can't have a homestead there. It just means that you want to definitely get out and look at the property and make sure that you have some areas that you could grow food in. It does say this is not prime farmland, but that doesn't mean you can't have a garden there. It does tell you more soils in this group have moderately high runoff potential when thoroughly wet. Water transmission through the soil is somewhat restricted. And down here it says erosion, very severe limitations that make them unsuited to cultivation and restrict their use to grazing. So that's really important information. You could generate a report, you could do a little more research, you could go and actually take a look for yourself and see what you think. But good to know ahead of time. One of the things I recommend is only clicking on one layer at a time. And then when you're done looking, unclick it, because otherwise it gets the map way too cluttered with information. You also have wetlands, flood zones, and land cover, which is pretty interesting. It'll tell you if it's barren land. So this is good information. So that's the first website. The second website I want to go to is called Enviro Atlas. What I really like about this one is their description, which I'll read to you. Human health and well-being are closely tied to the environment, which provides benefits such as clean water, clean air, and protection from natural hazards. Right there is pretty much everything that we see on Homestead Rescue. So there's a lot of data here. And again, if you scroll down, it tells you all about Enviro Atlas. It explains their interactive applications, how to use it. There's training and tutorial videos. I'm just going to launch the map and show you a few of the things that I really like the best about this one. Again, you can tour it, you can learn it with examples, and I'm just going to hit explore. You can put a zip code up at the top here and zoom right into wherever you want to be. And I'm just going to scroll into New York a little bit here. I like this one, energy potential, because we're going off grid. So knowing your solar energy potential is super important. So I add that layer, it shows up over here, and then I just close that box. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and you can see there's two different colors. So if I click on the dark green, it's telling me that there's a potential of 3.49 kilowatt hours per meter squared per day. And that's just an average because, of course, the winters are really harsh in the Adirondacks, and that brings that number down. Useful knowledge if that's what you plan on doing. And here's the wind potential, which after doing my research, we've decided not to do. Scrolling down, land cover, landscape patterns, water supply, runoff and flow. Weather and climate is a good one. This one shows you the average annual precipitation in inches per year. So that is great, especially if you plan on homesteading. It's good to know what you might have to do as far as watering your plants, or if you're planning on doing any rainwater collection. So this is a very, very useful map that you should definitely explore before making a decision. Let me go to a few other maps that are really useful. The next one I want to look at is the Environmental Working Group Interactive Maps. And as I scroll down, you can see that there's a multitude of different maps that you can look at. And this is about knowing your environment and protecting your health. So here the first one talks about toxic algae in lakes that threaten drinking water and recreation. And for us as homesteaders, drinking water is huge. So you'll click on that and scroll down. And this is the interactive map. Once you click on that, it tells you about the map, and then you can see all the problems and scroll in. Again, we're in New York, so I'll scroll in, and you can see what they are and whether or not that's anywhere near where you're going to be residing. Going back to the main, you have contamination crises. Here you have a United States map of nitrates. A lot of different things that you can look at and see if that's anywhere near where you are. So definitely check out that. Okay, another one that I want to share with you is the EPA has a radon map. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that can cause lung cancer. You can't see it, you can't smell it, and the only way to know if it's in your home is through a test. And you can actually even buy the radon test kits right through Amazon. I'll even link to that below for you. And over here on the right, I'll click on the interactive map. I would like to see the full-size map. And they've classified it into 3 zones. You could do more research in your own specific area. It doesn't hurt to test, and it's very easy to remediate, especially if you're building a new home. Another thing that we see on Homestead Rescue all the time are landslides. So I want to share a landslide interactive map with you. So this is the Landslide Hazards Program. If it's an area where there's a lot of wildfires, there's definitely a chance for landslides after a fire because the wildlife roots that would protect that soil from washing away are gone. There's also earthquake-triggered ground failures, which are pretty important depending on your location as well. This is a map of the landslide inventory. It is interactive. So the link takes you outside of the USGS, and you have to give you permission that it's okay. But this is an interesting map, and the more you zoom in again, the more detailed it becomes. But they do have the key on the left, high confidence down to possible. And pretty much if there's a steep slope somewhere, there's really always a possibility. But there are other factors, and depending where in the country you're looking, a lot of the factors have to do with the steep slopes and the type of soil that's present. So it's just a good thing to know. Wildfires are another thing that we've seen happening. Now, this is an interactive wildfire map through the U.S. Forest Service. I don't know a lot about this because we don't really have this problem by us. Interesting to just be able to click around and see. The last one that I really want to talk about is sinkholes. Sinkholes are common in Florida, Texas, Alabama, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania. I think each of those states have their own, so just do your own research. This is for Florida, which is the #1 in the country. So down here, here's subsidence incident reports. They explain everything, and then you can go directly to the map. Now we're too zoomed out. So what we want to do is we want to zoom in. And as you zoom in closer and closer, you can see the areas where reports have been made. Now, just a quick disclaimer, sinkholes can literally happen anywhere for lots of different reasons. A pipe underground could have a big leak and create a sinkhole slowly over time, but the big sinkholes that are caused by karst topography or other ground that's maybe made of gypsum, those areas get the really big dangerous sinkholes because of the bedrock that they're made of. Florida has karst topography. You can do your research on that, but it has a tendency to get these sinkholes, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't live there. There's a lot of people that live in Florida. It's just important to understand sinkholes, know the signs. If you're trying to buy that land, that might be super cheap, and it's in Florida. This is definitely something you want to check and see if maybe that's the reason why. That's just a few websites that can be really helpful to you before you make your decision on buying a homestead. So whether you choose to move on and find another property, or you use it to lowball an offer, at least you can buy knowing what you are getting into, and you can plan ahead how to manage. Knowledge is power. And then, well, if you still need the Raneys to help out, I'm sure they'll be happy to do a homestead rescue. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you're interested in watching our homestead build, which addresses pretty much all of those issues.